evening. I also want to thank everyone for taking.
Okay. Good. Yeah, we're ready to go.
Good evening, everyone. We welcome you all to another interesting webinar organized by ISC2 Colombo chapter with the Security Committee. Today, we are going to discuss about a global challenge majority of the internet users are facing, which is cyberbullying and its emotional effects. Before we start things, we would like to thank our collaboration partner, the Association of Information Security, Ladies in Cyber, Singapore, our national partner, Information Communication and Technology Agency, Sri Lanka, and Sri Lanka CERT, our strategic partners, SLASCOM, Banking, Finance and Insurance Institute of Nepal and Chamber Academy, the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce, community partners, ISACA Sri Lanka chapter, She Leads Tech, and IEEE Young Professionals Sri Lanka. Our media partner, ReadMe. I would now like to invite the president of ISC2 Colombo chapter, Mr. Sujit Christie, to add. Over to you, Sujit. Sujit, I think you're on mute.
Yep. Thank you, Suhashini, for the warm introduction. And it is my pleasure, and more than that, it's my great honor to have all you lovely ladies on this panel discussion to talk about a very important topic. And I think this is becoming a topic which is less spoken. And I think there are people who are victims who are suffering all by themselves. So the objective today is to try and identify ways to overcome or find ways to mitigate this problem and help people to stay safe on the internet. So I also take this opportunity to thank all of you, the panelists who have made time to come on board and talk about your experience and also give your wisdom out to people to stay safe. And I also want to thank all our partners who have taken time to be with us and support this initiative. And we also look forward to working with you in the future endeavors. Right? So at this point in time, it is my honor, a pleasure to welcome Sherin Lee, Vice President, Vice Chair, and the founder of Women Ladies in Cyber with AisP in Singapore. Over to you, Sherin, to say a few words.
Thank you so much, Sujit. So good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Sherin, and as Sujit mentioned, I'm the VP in AisP's Executive Committee. I'm also the founder of the Ladies in Cyber chapter, and I'm really pleased today to be able to collaborate with ISC2 Colombo chapter to run this meaningful topic. And before I hand over the floor to the panelist, Eileen, I just want to take a couple of moments to set a bit of context as to why we're here today. So, while many people might not make a direct connection between cybersecurity and cyberbullying, I think the relationship is very apparent if you follow certain thought processes. The obvious connection, obviously, is that they're both related to the internet, but really the relationship goes beyond that. So we know that bullying in today's world can go beyond simple physical abuse to taking place digitally as well. And cyberbullying can involve intimidation, deceit, harassment, humiliation, and even directly impersonating a person. And since it takes place online, it's also not restricted to physical spaces or locations. Due to the ubiquitous nature of the internet, cyberbullying can also follow victims throughout every aspect of their lives. So we're talking about the common issue of cyber stalking. And while it's cute or entertaining to learn about a new friend or potential partner by following them on Facebook, the issue of cyber stalking in a cyberbullying context is very serious. and therefore it's one of the key things that connect it to cybersecurity. So just to touch on a couple of examples that illustrate the direct relationship between cybersecurity and cyberbullying. Identity theft, for one, is the poster child of cybercrime, and it's a threat that's used in cyberbullying very often. So a cyber criminal, for example, may defraud an individual by accessing or opening new lines of credit in your name. Or they may try to impersonate an individual for various motives. For example, if a cyber bully is stalking someone, they may hack into that person's user account or again, an email address or social media account to impersonate them. This allows them to get information from their victim's friends and family and arrest them. Another way the cyberbully can be a cybersecurity threat is by using malware to hack into their target's phone. And it gives them access to their victim's GPS location or even sensitive personal information housed on their victim's personal device. So the most disturbing aspect of this kind of data breach perhaps is the potential for the stalker to even use a phone, tablet, or laptop camera to stalk a person by looking right into their phone through their device. And this brings us back to why there's a social consciousness for cybersecurity associations such as AisP and ISC2 Colombo chapter to take such a topic seriously, to extend and do our part to share such cyber-related awareness learning to everyone. Of course, being aware of the problem doesn't make it go away. But we believe that education and implementation of different measures can help minimize the threats and effects of cyberbullying and cybersecurity just from an ecosystem perspective. So what we're really talking about here today is the repeat addressing of the notion of due diligence. And to summarize, take steps to increase your cybersecurity, consider increasing the physical safety of your home, and make sure everyone is well informed on the related issues. With these measures in place, you and your loved ones will live happier and more securely in our increasingly digitally connected world. Thank you.
Suhashini, thank you, Sharon, for that important message. I think you've set the tone, the platform for this discussion to commence. Suhashini, you can take over from here.
Thank you, Sajid. Thanks, Sharon, for those great words, actually. Now we would like to welcome our panelists for today. Erin Yeo, Senior Lecturer at the School of Computing, Singapore Polytechnic.
Hello, hi everyone.
She's also a part of Executive Committee member of AisP Singapore and also a part of AisP Ladies in Cyber Committee. Next, we have Shanika Malalgoda, Director, Planning and Information, National Child Protection Authority, Sri Lanka. And she's also a well-known sociologist in Sri Lanka. Next, Anudina Nayakkara. She's a seasoned legal counselor and currently working as Senior Manager Legal in ICTA, Sri Lanka. Next, we have Dr. Nazad Nazir. She's the Acting Consultant Psychiatric of Ministry of Health, Sri Lanka. And last but not the least, the moderator of the panel, Samanthi Sudiriko, Director, Diversity, Equity and Inclusion, ISC2 Colombo Chapter. And also she leads the Women in Cybersecurity Subcommittee of ISC2 Colombo Chapter. On behalf of ISC2 Colombo Chapter, we would like to thank you for taking up your time to be a part of our webinar. Thank you very much. Floor is yours, Samanthi.
Thank you, Samani. Thank you very much. So good evening, good morning, and good afternoon to everyone who's joining across the globe. Just to give you a context, we do have participants joining from Sri Lanka, Singapore, Australia, and across Dubai, as well as other countries as well. So depending on your timing, again, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to the session. Thank you, ladies, for joining us and willing to share your insight on this really key topic on cyberbullying and the effects and how we can lessen the impact. So, Aline, I would like to start with you. I know Shireen touched on why cybersecurity and cyberbullying is related, and she talked about certain types of cyberbullying. If you can just expand further on cyberbullying and basically different channels, expand on what Shireen has shared, take it further and just, again, set that context for the rest of the conversation.
Okay, hi everyone. Yeah, all right. So cyberbullying is basically bullying or harassing someone, but it happens on the virtual world, in the internet. Yeah, and cyberbullying can take on many different forms. Like it could be just posting hurtful comments about the victim. So this will include the category of body shaming, where people make negative, damaging remarks about appearances. Yeah. Or it could be posting embarrassing photos and videos of the victim. Now, these posts could come from anonymous users hiding behind internet nicknames. Or these users could actually be known to the victim. For example, they might be the victim's own classmates, right? So another way of cyberbullying is being excluded from online groups. Okay, and usually these online groups may include the victim's friends. So if you can imagine, if you're in a class and you know your class has a WhatsApp group and you are not a member of it, okay, and you have never been invited to join in. So can you imagine how you feel to be left out of the group? You'll be imagining, oh, everyone is talking about bad things about me in that group. And what are they saying about me now? So this can be very, very distressing, especially for young people, okay, because they're just finding their place in the community, and being socially excluded can be very devastating for them. Yeah. So more serious forms of cyberbullying could include things like posting threats of violence, or sending unwanted obscene materials, or cyber stalking, as Shireen has mentioned, where you start sending endless string of messages to someone on the internet and you create fear in the victim. Yeah. Or another form of cyberbullying, where you create a fake profile of the victim. Yeah. So this is where cybersecurity will come in. Okay. It's a form of identity theft, where the victim's identity is used to create fake accounts. For example, a fake Instagram account, and the cyberbully will start posting up fake photographs or sending messages with vulgarities, pretending that all these are being put up by the victim. And the aim is to embarrass or humiliate the victim. Yeah, so cyberbullying can take on many, many different forms.
Yeah, thanks, Aline. That's one interesting point you were saying about being excluded in social groups, social media groups. I hadn't thought of that. So that's didn't think of that. I mean, and the impact that has emotionally. Yeah. Thanks for giving us the context of that, the different types. And we talked about the fake profiles and the social groups. Shanika, I want to direct the next question to you. Do you see cyberbullying as a concern in Sri Lanka and the region? Obviously, yes. And if yes, who are the victims? Is it just children and teenagers, or has it gone to adults as well?
Yes, Samantha, actually, this is definitely this is a concern in Sri Lanka. Before, I think, before COVID-19 situation, I think we can't see this much of prominence for cyberbullying situation, because once COVID situation has prevailed in Sri Lanka, normally, teaching learning process has changed to a certain extent. I think especially when we discuss about cyberbullying situation in Sri Lanka, normally before the COVID situation, students as well as many people are reluctant to use devices, mobile devices for their children. So especially due to these socio-economic changes in Sri Lanka, actually cyberbullying has become a prominent topic, especially this has affected in a negative manner for the children as well as teenagers. In addition to that, we know that normally our children are not adequately teach on how to get on this problem. It's also come with the discussion of cyberbullying thing. In addition to that, even though we are using mobile devices, our parents are not that much concerned about the techniques, so they are not very much literate on this these kind of devices, as well as if something happens, for example, cyberbullying thing and harassments or some kind of sexual treating or sharing some information through internet or cyberbullying things, definitely people think that we want to hide this thing because it will become a negative consequences for the family. So definitely this is a very much concern in Sri Lanka. I'm sure that in coming decade, this will be more than I think definitely as a country, we all partners as well as the community, youngsters as well as universities. I mean, almost all the institutions should have to pay very much attention to this question, it seems, because in the coming decade, normally we know that Sri Lanka is a part and parcel of the global village. So since we are discussing about digital era and digital world, definitely we want to think about this special topic, cyberbullying. Otherwise, if we can't find or if we can't understand this as a social issue or social problem, we can't find solutions at all.
Yes, thank you, Shanika. I think you hit the nail on the head with COVID. Everybody going into a hybrid approach of working and being online most of the day, even especially the kids. It has opened doorways for cyberbullies. And you said it probably will grow in the next decades, but it's a concern now. And I want to touch point on what you said on probably the parents are not literate enough to safeguard the kids on the technologies. So moving on to Dr. Nasat from Shanika, I want to touch on that topic. We know there's a concern about why do people become bullies, and also what makes people vulnerable to being cyberbullied, Doctor?
Yeah, thank you, Samantha, for that very pertinent question. And yes, and thank you, Eileen, for setting the stage, and Shanika for building on that so well. So what really makes a person vulnerable to being bullied? You could think of like several reasons as to what actually makes a person vulnerable. There have been like multiple research done on cyberbullying, especially one in adolescents in Colombo by one of my colleagues, who's actually a doctor in community medicine. And it has actually revealed that the likelihood of being bullied online was highest among youth who have actually befriended unknown people, shared personal information on public forums, ignored age restrictions while online, and victimization has been like more likely if online activities, like you correctly said, were not supervised by parents. Reason being that the parents themselves were not as skilled in using the internet. So those are some of the things that you need to look into when you think of what makes one vulnerable. But when you look at the bullies, like what makes a person become a bully? So people bully for a myriad of reasons. Some may be just thoughtless rather than being deliberately hurtful. And some others, like mostly we find people who have actually been identified with dissocial personality traits. And these are the kind of people who actually enjoy and invite conflict and aggression. They lacrimose and they like just marginalizing people for their sexual orientation, and they kind of get a kick out of this. So these are the kind of people you need to watch out for. And then there are always these underprivileged and those who are struggling socially. These lot are actually prone to self-esteem issues, which makes them want to bully people. And then there are these opportunistic ones, the ones who like jumping on the bandwagon. Those are the ones that you usually see where bullying is concerned in adults. So, but a significant, what I would really like to draw your attention to is that a significant proportion of these bullies themselves have been victims. So unfortunately, they've been part of a very nasty trauma cycle. I believe this would be the time to actually reiterate about what kind of bullying can actually happen in the home front, which at times can be as small as even name calling. So there have been multiple research that has been done and found that children who bully are more likely than their non-bullying peers to come from homes with certain characteristics. And these are some of the risk factors that you actually find in these families. Like some of them are lack of parental warmth and involvement, overly permissive parenting and lack of parental supervision on one hand, and then you've also got this harsh physical discipline and extreme kind of a disciplining on the other hand. Both these extremes actually pose as risk factors, and those coming from violent home fronts as well. And so these are things you would actually want to look out for. I mean, to speak of some of these profiling of the bullies, people like to sort of put them into a category, but I wouldn't really agree that you could actually call somebody a bully. You just check your boxes and say, okay, I guess it makes you a bully. It doesn't really work like that. But there are some personality traits that you could actually, notice in people who are bullies. Some of these are these impulsiveness and people who have anger management problems, those who are more controlling rather than leading, and ones who are prone to frustration. Then there are these notions where these the bullies tend to hold just to justify what they're doing. So if you have an outlook towards somebody, to say that, okay, if he didn't look so stupid, I wouldn't have to hit him, or, well, she had this coming, just look at a display picture, things like that. So people who tend to give into that kind of thoughts are also prone to become bullies. And those who find difficulties in following rules and respect for authority, so on and so forth. The list is long.
Thank you, Doctor. Yeah, I think what you're saying is, there are bullies, and the bullies, because of probably environment, or they don't know any better, or they have any issues emotionally that they're taking out on the victims, and victims also, due to certain things, make themselves vulnerable. So thank you for that insight. I think whoever is listening can, take a step back and see what they need to do if you're vulnerable to how to avoid a bit of what you have said. And when you see somebody who is being a bully, to see what can be done. I just, from that, you said talk about authority as well. So I want to talk to Anudhi now. Anudhi, from your context, being in the legal front, we have experienced, rapid adoption of hybrid work environments across not only schools, but in business sectors as well, and universities. From a legal standpoint, what is the legal nature of cyberbullying in the context of cybercrime? And how has it evolved in the last few years with the COVID as well?
Good evening from Sri Lanka to my fellow panelists and everyone who has joined us. And thank you, Sam, for that pertinent question. And I appreciate the additions already made and put forward by Eileen, Dr. Nazir, and Shanika. There has indeed been an alarming increase in the cybercrimes during the COVID-19 pandemic, with serious consequences on security and the stability of countries, as well as the safety and well-being of its citizens. While this is not at all a positive note for me to begin my conversation with, it is the reality. And it's important to note that over the last decade alone, there has been a tremendous increase in the innovative use of information and communication technologies, or ICTs, in daily life. Now, that is important because the pandemic only amplified the need for the use of these ICTs. This has now led in particular to the grave side effect of weaponizing information communication technologies for criminal purposes. The use of these ICTs has become a fixture in our day-to-day lives, as most of us use technologies to get through basic necessities and basic functions. We all worked and studied from home for the better part of 2 years. And as much as ICTs have become borderless, so have the crimes related to them become borderless too. And this is the true nature of cybercrime and thereby cyberbullying. It is continuously forming new limbs, and cybercrime in itself is innovative and evolves. So the legal nature of cyberbullying starts with the question, is cyberbullying a crime? And it surely must be. Now, I'm going to touch on this a little later on. It's a more elaborate conversation to have. But as Eileen pointed out just a little while ago, in her comprehensive description of cyberbullying, cyberbullying is the act of using electronic means to seek to harm, intimidate, or coerce someone perceived as vulnerable. And you can see that that particular element of cybercrime and its use of the ICT to carry out the cybercrime becomes so impactful on human life. It becomes impactful on a human's right to carry out their basic functions. So that is where the legal aspect comes in when we discuss cyberbullying. This also makes the social and economic impact that it takes on a country further responsive to cyber attacks. And it breaks down the defenses, and it is likely to be exploited for further criminal purposes. This is also why the legal nature of cyberbullying impacts human lives, and it's a constant threat. It is not something that happens like, for example, it's a road accident where you use a road and therefore you may meet with an accident. Cybercrime is borderless in how it takes place, when it takes place, and where it takes place. However, right now, before I get into the legal aspects of the cyberbullying, I must take a special moment to note that navigating through this cyber crime over the last few years of uncertainty, and in the face of increasingly new types of crimes committed through the use of ICTs. In Sri Lanka, Ministry of Justice, the Sri Lankan law enforcement authorities, including especially the CID's Computer Crimes Division, the Computer Emergency Readiness Team, or CERT as we know, have contributed significantly to supporting the victims of cybercrimes. So Sam, on the legal introduction, there we go.
Thanks, Anuti. I think I have another question for you later on the conversation about the legal aspects and the law enforcement. So thank you for that insight, and probably we can touch on later on that. I just want to get another sort of Sri Lanka perspective. I want to ask Eileen next. How prevalent is cyberbullying in Singapore and in the ASEAN region? And especially, do victims seek help? So just want to get from you, from the regional aspect, from ASEAN and Singapore.
Okay, thank you. Well, in the ASEAN region, just like anywhere else, yeah, cyberbullying is unfortunately on the rise. And as more and more people, we go online, and we are getting online at a younger age. Okay, and we also spend more and more time online. Okay, especially as mentioned the last 2 years with COVID. So from work from home, study from home. So we spend more time on the internet. And the chances of us getting cyberbullied is getting much higher. Yeah. So in Singapore, we are seeing children at a younger age using smartphones and having internet access. And as Shanika mentioned earlier, okay, these young children are not being monitored by their parents. Okay, that's where they start entering the wild, wild world of the internet. Okay, according to a survey that was done here a few years ago, it was found that 3 out of 4 young people in Singapore have experienced some form of cyberbullying before. That's like 75%, right? Yeah, so that's a pretty high number of children or teenagers that have been cyberbullied. And only 3% of those who have surveyed have informed their parents or teachers about it. And that's a very worrying statistic because it means many of them are not seeking help. Okay, and why are they not seeking help? Well, maybe they could be embarrassed and they think that, they prefer to stay silent. And this is something that is common in many countries here, okay, that the victims are reluctant to speak out and they want to stay invisible. Yeah. And a lot of them think that, there's nothing that they can do to stop the cyberbullying. Yeah. So it's something that we can all work on to help the victims of cyberbullying.
Thanks, Shireen. So that's very interesting. 75% do get bullied, but coming forward, it seems there people are reluctant, they are feeling guilty and embarrassed, which is, I think, not a good thing to see. I suppose we want people to come forward and get help as well, and so that they can stop the bullying. So I think I think you said on the ASEAN perspective. I just want to find out from Shanika, from the Sri Lankan aspect, is it the same? Do people seek help, or are they still reluctant? And when they do come and come forward, how do you ensure the identity and the information are protected and kept confidential? I think that would be more important since if they're reluctant. So Shanika, I would like to get your views on that.
Yes, Samanthi, thank you very much for the question. It seems because almost all the people, even children, teenagers, university students, and parents, as well as professionals, are in that question. If I tell something, whether my details are exposed to many. So we are normally like to adhere to the privacy of anything. So actually, as National Child Protection Authority is the sole entity in which the security of children and protection is ensured in Sri Lanka. As an institution, as an organization, we respect the privacy of each and every person. Even sometimes children bring their complaints to the NCPA through 1929 helpline. It's the helpline for each and everyone to make a complaint to this kind of bullying. Even people sometimes think that they can make or they can lodge some complaints only to the rape incident, sexual abuse thing, and grave sexual abuse, or whatever the grievance or such kind of things. But especially we want to tell that NCPs look after the complaints of anyone related to especially the cyberbullying. I just want to tell that we have a special WhatsApp number. It's 07732 20032. So if someone is subjected into cyberbullying incident, that person can lodge a complaint through 1929 helpline, and at the same time, that person can send a text to this number which I have earlier mentioned, and all the evidences can submit into the National Child Protection Authority. So we have a kind of law enforcement unit, and especially under Law Enforcement Division of National Child Protection Authority, we have Cyber Surveillance Unit. So this unit is working with different partners of the country. For example, ICTA, CERT, as well as Computer Crime Division, and we have so many links. And sometimes we have linked with other countries too. So definitely we are protecting the privacy of the complainant, because we know that it has a severe thing. We take all these complaints related to cyberbullying as serious concern. And not only that, if someone is asking some kind of psychosocial support, we have a psychosocial unit with competent clinical psychologists as well as psychotherapists. So we are ready to give psychosocial support, because we know that with the recordings of last year, we know that some students have committed suicide even due to this cyberbullying incident. So I think definitely we want to think about these things. That's why National Child Protection Authority has introduced this kind of, WhatsApp number too.
Thank you, Shanika. And I think that's tragic to hear. And that is the impact of cyberbullying. It has can go to so extreme that, people feel shame that they need to commit suicide to that extent. And thank you for sharing that with the audience, to say that, yes, how to report it, don't be reluctant. And if you do report, how the confidentiality will be maintained, and which authorities you will work together, to support these victims. So Shanika, thank you for that insight. You talked about psychosocial support. So I want to just touch base with Dr. Nasat now on do victims seek help for emotional and behavioral aspects, and what kind of symptoms have you observed in these victims who are, being bullied?
Thank you, Samanthi. And I just want to thank Shanika for the immense amount of work that the NCPA does. I have actually personally worked with them in my, while I was training, and there have been multiple occasions where children who have been subjected to abuse have been brought to our notice just by the NCPA. So I think you're doing a great job out there. So thank you for that. And moving on to whether the victims actually seek help, for their emotional, problems that results from cyberbullying. You see, most victims are likely to remain silent, usually, because being bullied is a scary and a confusing experience. And most often than not, this leaves them questioning if they actually deserve this kind of a treatment, because this takes place cyclically. It's a habitual thing. So there have been researchers too that have actually found out that 54% of students who were bullied did not report this to an adult. So there are many reasons, like Eileen pointed out. So shame and embarrassment, fear of retaliation, worrying that this could make the whole thing worse, and sometimes even the desire to feel accepted. So, and then there's also this concern about parents' response. Would they believe them? And there actually have been studies that indicate that adolescents generally do not tell a teacher or a parent when they're cyberbullied. this is mainly because they fear the loss of privileges, such as free and unsupervised use of internet. So a whole lot of awareness and education is actually warranted there. So that's something we need to look at. And I just want to touch up on something else, like, is it really important to seek help, and why so? So research has repeatedly shown that perceived social support from family and from teachers will reduce the probability of depression and anxiety symptoms, which I'll be talking about in a while. And it also increases the subjective well-being among the victims. And additionally, it's very interesting to note that parental support during this period actually has been shown to lessen the amount of cyber victimization 1 year later. So it's extremely crucial that we educate the parents and the adults that watching out for this kind of behavior and being receptive to your children or adolescents or anybody who wants to report cyberbullying. So the adult perspective in offering support is actually important, because there have been arguments that peers might not really see cyberbullying as problematic as adults do, and hence will not actually take any action, which is disastrous. So moving on to what kind of symptoms you need to observe for, and what are the behavioral aspects and the emotional results of being bullied. So again, I just want to reiterate that a lot of research has gone into this because it's important. And contemporary research indicates that victims of these kind of experiences, actually, they end up being diagnosed with depression, anxiety, and PTSD, because it's a kind of a trauma, and loneliness, social exclusion, and very sad to note that there have actually been associated poor academic performances. And some of them, like Shanika correctly pointed out, have actually experienced suicidal thoughts as well. And the irony is it puts you at risk of engaging in deviant or delinquent behavior yourself, making you vulnerable to become a bully. So it's really a vicious cycle, and we need to put an end to this. And it doesn't stop there. So it moves on to the behavioral problems like substance taking, alcohol use, anger problems, and strains in interpersonal relationships. So the consequences are like wide and the many, and you need to nip it in the bud. The moment you get to know, just be receptive to somebody who talks to you about this kind of bullying or any harassment online, and you need to be able to help them. So one last thing I just want to point out is that adolescents who actually experience this kind of bullying online, you see, adolescence is a very important period of identity formation, and they usually they thrive on social acceptance. So it makes them extremely vulnerable. And that being said, it actually has really bad effects on personality development as well, because that's where your personality starts developing. So I guess those are some of the things that you need to look out for.
Thank you, Doctor. So I think we went through not just the emotional aspect, like you said, the same terms as depression, anxiety, but basically we touched base also on something key important, that parents be open and receptive to listen and be mindful. So I think with the insights you've given and on the statistics you've given, I think it helped people on this session listening in to be mindful of those symptoms, and probably not wait for the victim to come forward. If you can just query a bit, we get more information. And after that, I mean, the work you do and Shanika and Anuti is doing at a country level and a global level, I think, and Eileen in the Asian region, I think that will not only help people, but probably reduce and by increased awareness. So on that aspect, I want to just talk to Anuti now. To protect the victims, is there a law to protect individuals and the victims of cyberbullying? And how well are the law enforcement empowered when it's reported to tackle the issue of cyberbullying? if you can just give us some insights from a legal aspect.
Thanks, Sam. In a Sri Lankan context, unfortunately, right now, there is no singular comprehensive legislation dealing specifically with cyberbullying. But at this point, I want to reiterate that in terms of legal code, it is quite difficult to maintain an exhaustive list of crimes under the cybercrime genre, because these elements of crimes committed through the use of technology change and evolve consistently. So having an exhaustive list would be detrimental to a country because they would need to continuously act. We can look at some of the Sri Lankan legislation that does in fact provide assistance with regard to taking action against cyberbullying. Although it is not defined specifically in the penal code, cyberbullying could be covered given that it includes the electronic harassment aspect. So it is very important also to note that there are legal modes. We like to state there is no legislation or statute that we can go up to, but in fact it is embedded in several legislation within Sri Lanka. So while I would love to elaborate as a lawyer, go into all the sections and tell you about it, in the interest of time, what I would like
session,
yes, it'll have to be.
I think that's important. We'll have another.
Absolutely, you can give me 2.5 hours for that, please. But yes, coming back to that, I'd like to quickly mention for the benefit of our guests that these are the statutory and legal resources available. The Penal Code Amendment Acts of 22 of 1995 and number 16 of 2006. Very crucial to the criminal laws of Sri Lanka, particularly dealing with the rights of the child and electronic usage of for criminal purposes. Then very importantly, Computer Crimes Act number 24 of 2007, Information Communication and Technology Agency of Sri Lanka, that's my organization, ICTA was directly involved. And of course, we have many amendments made to the Criminal Procedure Code as well, in order to identify and define certain characteristics that allude to cyberbullying. And as Shanika has elaborated already, the National Child Protection Authority has made great strides in creating awareness about the nature of cyberbullying and what to do in the event cyberbullying takes place. The CERT Computer Emergency Readiness Team is one aspect where, unfortunately, cyberbullying, particularly, they take note of it, although their mandate is to cover such thing as identity theft, which can also be embedded in aspects of cyberbullying. And I think all my panelists will agree that a cohesive, comprehensive cyberbullying definition universally is yet to be arrived on, because it has functionalities in different jurisdictions in different ways. However, I do need to emphasize on an aspect of this discussion that we are engaged in today, which is the emotional aspects of cyberbullying. And as Dr. Nazir detailed earlier quite comprehensively, victims of cyberbullying, by nature of the act of cyberbullying itself, are made to feel vulnerable, humiliated, extremely self-critical, and isolated. So cyberbully victims suffer from intense mental distress and are often diagnosed with depression and post-traumatic stress disorder. Therefore, even if many avenues do exist to take legal action against the cyberbullies, more often the victims don't take any action due to the fears and stigma associated with making a complaint against cyberbullies. And there have been many, many research and studies and statistics collections on this, where that is the answer the victim gives. Why did you not reach out? Because the consequences are taken upon themselves. It is because of me that this happened. So I believe my panelists elaborated on that very, very well before I did. And therefore, I truly believe that we as a society need to build a strong bridge of support in ensuring that victims are empowered to seek legal protection and support, because it does exist. And there must be a move towards more capacity building efforts to ensure the effective implementation of the existing laws to combat cyberbullying. And very importantly, I feel awareness alone is not sufficient. Having been a legal practitioner for quite some time, what we lack is, as a society, maybe we need to improve on greatly, is empathy. We need to create a sense of empathy that needs to be built across the society, and specifically within private sectors, public sectors, and educational organizations, to ensure we eventually eradicate cyberbullying. Thank you.
Thank you, Anudhi, for that insight. I think what you said correctly at the end. It's not just about law enforcement. We do have these, and you have to build the capacity. But each one of us here and our families and our society need to show empathy to ensure we handle, we support, handle is not the correct word, support the victims of cyberbullying. So, and I think Shanika has shared some phone numbers. I think it's on the chat for who wants to get a note, have a note on that. And I think whatever the laws that Anudhi mentioned, we will also put on chat, or later we will share with all the participants here. So Anudhi, from moving on, I would like to now you talk about awareness is not enough. So I want to ask Eileen from a Singapore aspect. I mean, you're very technology advanced. How is Singapore and in the ASEAN region dealing with this problem of cyberbullying?
Hi, thanks for the question. Well, from the technology perspective, yeah, we will be thinking, yes, could new and advanced technologies like machine learning, artificial intelligence, can they help to detect and prevent offensive words or phrases or even a whole sentence from being posted on the internet? Yeah, so likely one day in the near future, such artificial intelligence could help to detect or even remove a certain good percentage of cyberbullying content. Yeah, already some social media platforms like Instagram, they are trying out these new technologies to help them filter out harmful materials. Yes, but technology, no matter how advanced, there's always a limit to what they can do, right? Just like our email, the anti-spam filters, okay, even with those in place, we do still see a certain number of spam mails coming through. So even with artificial intelligence, there will be some cyberbullying content that will get onto the internet. So no matter how good the technology is, yeah, it's still important that we have to deal with the cyberbullying from the social perspective. Yeah, so with children going on the internet, so we have schools and other organizations playing an important role in teaching cyber wellness skills. Yeah, so things like how to behave on the internet, being mindful of what you type, okay, what is acceptable and what would be considered as cyberbullying, having empathy, as Anudhi has mentioned, yeah, and when you should report to parents or teachers if you are being cyberbullied, or if they are not comfortable with speaking to a parent or a teacher, okay, other ways to seek help if they are being a victim of cyberbullying. Okay, just like as Shanika has mentioned, just having a WhatsApp number, that can be so much helpful. Okay, knowing that they can send a text message or call if they need a listening ear. Yeah. So all this is to help users, especially the young people, to stay safe on the internet. So when technology will definitely help, okay, they will definitely help in filtering out content on the internet, but we still need ourselves, the users, no matter what age, young or old, we still need to be educated, okay, in cyber wellness awareness.
Thank you, Ellie. I think that's a good concept, cyber wellness in schools, teaching on cyber wellness. I think going to the inception at the child level, you train them on what's the good, what is bad. And, when they grow to become adults, and even in their teenage period, they are mindful of what cyberbullying is, what not to do, and to avoid that. So I think that's a great learning. I think rest all the other regions can take. Like you said, not only technology, and you have in the AI. I think even AI will help in terms of when people who use technology are not conversant. I think that AI and those the platforms themselves, the companies being mindful on that and helping the users will also lessen the impact, I guess, or lessen the probability of people being bullied, the vulnerable people being bullied. So on that context, I would like to ask Shanika. Shanika, you from your input, you said on NCPA what programs you have run. If you could just expand on that, on what you have done to address the cyberbullying, including more on the awareness aspect as well.
Yes. Actually speaking, NCPA is doing a wide range of awarenesses. For example, at school level, we have a kind of school child protection committee concept. It is we are dealing with the Ministry of Education in Sri Lanka. So from school child protection committees, we make aware our children as well as parents and teachers on each and every aspects of child protection. For example, physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, and neglect. So these four kind of abuse types, we make aware almost all the categories which comes under school. In addition to that, we have given priority for the wide range of awareness through our social platforms. For example, by National Child Protection Authority itself has a website. So from National Child Protection Authority website, we have published so many articles and many IEC materials to make children as well as university students and professionals aware. So by using all these IEC materials, people can get knowledge out of this. Especially we have a kind of material, especially regarding the cyberbullying. It's called Internet. It's a small booklet, and we have developed it as a kind of a storybook. So if you go into our website, www.childprotection.gov.lk, you can find these articles. Moreover, we have kind of social media, through our social media networks. We are using our YouTube channel, Facebook, as well as Twitter. All these social media platforms we are using for making our community aware. In addition to that, we know that many of the children are not concerned with this kind of awareness. So that's why we have wide range of awareness ways and means. For example, these days we are working with Rupavahini channels as well as radio channels as well as newspapers in Sri Lanka. So all these media professionals in Sri Lanka are supporting to National Child Protection Authority without taking at least a single cent. So it's worth, because under National Child Protection Authority, and since we have a national policy on child protection, we have focused on cyberbullying. because we want to prevent these kind of cyberbullying cases. Otherwise, we as a nation, we have to spend much time, much resources for the curative activities. So in addition to that, I would like to mention that especially we have introduced a new novel program from this year onwards. It's called a Student Ambassador Program. It's especially have developed for school prefects in Sri Lanka. So as we all know, we have targeted the senior prefect boards in Sri Lanka because almost all senior prefect boards consist of teenagers. So through this school ambassador program, we are going to make aware these youngsters, teenagers about cyberbullying. Not only that, we have focused, we have a very good, strong professional network at our district level. So district child protection officers as well as district psychosocial officers look after these kind of matters by making aware children, parents, community, CSOs and local NGOs as well. Not only that, in the grassroots level, it means Grama Niladhari division level, we have divisional child protection officers. So by using all these networks, National Child Protection Authority is making children aware on this particular subject. Especially our target is making children aware as well as making parents aware, because all these two platforms are very fruitful to prevent these kind of cyberbullying incidents in Sri Lanka.
Thank you, Shanika. I think I need to take this moment to thank the great work that NCPA is doing on this regard on cyberbullying, not only making the awareness, but also having something like a student ambassador program, where probably children may not want to approach an adult, but would love, we feel more comfortable approaching one of their, peers in school rather than an adult. So not only awareness that's preventing, but, getting people mechanisms to help them come forward. I think that's great work, and all the work you have doing at district, divisional, and grammar level as well. So thank you. I think I speak on behalf of everyone here. Thank you for all the great work you're doing. Dr. Nasser, from that, I would like to take it forward. Shanika was talking about awareness, and Alavi was, and Aline was talking about the technical and the law aspect as well. But in terms of, you talked about the symptoms shown by victims. Is there any therapy you can recommend to recovery, if you can say it that way?
Well, thank you, Sam. So, I'll start off saying that prevention is always better than cure. So thank you all, especially the panelists, for all of their valuable inputs to ensure this. And thank you, Anudhi, for stressing on empathy. You can't put a price on that. So I guess being receptive and extending a listening ear is definitely the way to go. Absolutely. Having said that, so there are always measures we can take to help the journey of recovery in all of these patients. So basically those actually depend, and they focus on the time of reaction each person has to cyberbullying. So there are these specific therapies for trauma-related conditions that we could offer. Additionally, there are therapies to help improve personality traits that makes you vulnerable. And we can work on your assertiveness training and things like that. We also provide support for those struggling with more serious mental issues like depression, anxiety, and PTSD, sometimes with medication where indicated, alongside psychotherapy, of course. Psychotherapy has a huge role here. And so anybody being bullied online or otherwise, and are suffering from mental health issues, like Shanika just mentioned, you can just pick up the phone and dial 1926. just a call away, and we have help coming out there. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you, Doctor. And I think you said, I think Eileen, I'm not mistaken, was saying it's better to prevent because the cost of the impact of once it's happened for someone to recover all the support systems, even with support systems, the cost of to individuals is higher. So it's always better to prevent. And thank you for sharing your insights on what recovery methods you have. Like you said, it depends on the person and the situation. Thank you for that. The last question, I think, for the session, I'll pose to Anudhi. Is there, we talked about, from law, psychological therapy, awareness, and a lot of, parties having to get involved to lessen the impact. Is there collaboration with law enforcement and other agencies in the country towards this? And is there room to create further awareness and to protect users in the cyberspace?
Thanks, Sam. The very nature of cyberbullying is that it's global and it's borderless. It is multi-jurisdictional and cannot be restricted to a country. Therefore, you can just imagine how governments cannot enforce it in isolation. I'm sure governments have tried, but you cannot. And this creates a challenge in trying to combat cybercrimes and cyberbullying. So interestingly, Sri Lanka is a state party to the Council of Europe's Convention on Cybercrime. And this is also known as the Budapest Convention. And its additional protocols include deal with crimes committed via the internet that address violations of network security, such as illegal access to computer systems, illegal interception, damaging, deletion, deterioration, alteration, or suppression of computer data. It also obliges member states to establish adequate investigative powers and procedures within their country to tackle cyber crimes. And very importantly, Sri Lanka is very involved in a conversation with the United Nations for a universal convention on cybercrime. We need each other to combat this. And what needs to be emphasized further is that Sri Lanka's ability to combat this and to implement the previously mentioned Budapest Convention came after 7 years of a period of 7 years of being assessed under stringent methodologies of whether Sri Lanka is capable of taking on an international convention to embed within their local laws. And good news is we have proved ourselves, which means we do have the necessary tools. And as all my panelists pointed out, and as I am also a firm believer, awareness is important and key for implementation, because we could have perfect laws, but if implementation fails, we fail our citizens, we fail our people. And in answering your question, Sam, there has been continuous collaboration internationally through mutual legal assistance, that known as MLAs. And there are also continuous training programs and awareness programs, including training programs for Sri Lankan judges and prosecutors to ensure that cybercrime is tackled effectively. If this panel is anything to go by, we have experts in so many relevant and important fields. And I would like to now take the moment to thank your entire team, Sam, plus Dr. Nazir, Eileen, and very particularly Shanika, who I'm so privileged to have met and spoken to, and to just know that we are all now one call away from each other to help people, to help any victim who has endured cyberbullying. So this has been an honor and a privilege. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anuti. I think when we thought of this program, this session, this is what we really wanted to achieve. Get these, all of you ladies who are experts in your field, you have so much insights and knowledge. And thank you for sharing all that. And I think what is more important, you have given practical scenarios, practical ways for victims, how to come forward, why they need to come forward. If they do come forward, what is protecting them, their confidentiality, and all the other programs that is happening where even the parents or adults can tap into from what NCPA is doing, what Anuti, your team is doing, Dr. Nasrat, what work you're working, and Eileen with on the schools and the technology aspect. So I think this is a great collaboration. I'm just wondering if my video is stuck, or can you hear me, all of you? You can hear me. Okay. I think I think it's fluctuating. Sorry, my internet connection is not that strong at the moment. So what I was saying is this is a great, I think, opportunity for all of us to collaborate further, not only just this session, further and ensure that we provide emotional as well as legal as social support to the victims, and of course reduce the impact, emotional impact as well. So thank you all, ladies. Sujit, I will hand over to you now for the questions from the audience.
Right. Thank you, Sam. Thank you for moderating a wonderful discussion, and you kept the momentum on. And I think if time permitted, like Anuti said, if we can go on and if we had the luxury of time, and I think we could have discussed several aspects of this societal problem. Right now, I do not see any questions from the audience. So if you would like to ask, or if any of you want to add any points before we close, you get a chance to make one last comment, all the panelists.
Yeah, if you could have one last thought you would like to share with the audience, each one of you. We probably start with Eileen, then Shanika, Dr. Nasrat, and Anuti in that order. Then if we don't have any questions, what last thought would you like to share with the audience?
Okay, thank you, Sam. I think I'd just like to share that, cyberbullying is something that we shouldn't sweep under the carpet. It is something serious. It can affect people emotionally and have a great effect on their lives. So if we do encounter someone who say, I'm being cyberbullied, we do need to sit down and listen to them and not just say, oh yeah, don't worry, it happens to everyone. But it is it's very emotionally distressing for the victim. Yeah.
Thank you, Eileen. Shanika, your thoughts? I think, Shanika, you're on mute.
Okay, I think it's great to give my thoughts as last concerns. So I think even we, as Sri Lanka, we want to have a very good network among universities, institutions, people, media, and not only that, we have to develop a kind of network among other regional countries on this novel topic, because we are now as beginners of this problem. So once I started my session today, I emphasized that in another 10 years time, this issue will be more highlighted in the society. So for that, from the university undergraduates as well as university lecturers who are in touch with this field, especially technology field, should support for this kind of especially researchers, new researchers and technology-based researchers. I think we can combat this issue to a great extent. Thank you.
Thank you, Shanika. Dr. Nasser, over to you.
Yeah, so I'd like to echo Eileen's words. So all you need to do is reach out. Don't keep silent about this. You don't have to suffer alone. So we are all here for you. And one last thing I need to reiterate is that parents and adults, we need to be more receptive and create awareness for the youngsters. And yeah, that should be the way to go, I guess. And thank you, Sam and team, for this wonderful opportunity. It's my pleasure to be part of this. Yeah.
Thank you, Doctor. It's our pleasure to have you also on this great collaboration. Anudhi, over to you, the last speaker.
Thanks. I am thrilled to be, as I mentioned earlier, connected with everyone. And I am going to echo everyone's sentiments. Don't stay silent. You need to speak out. If the incidents and happenings in Sri Lanka for the last few months are anything to go by, speaking out makes a difference. And we have to build awareness that this does happen, but it can end. We can put a stop to it. And something that I wish we would all promote with everybody, young, old, children, adults, is your mental health is the most important aspect of yourself, not just your physical health. But mental health means you sit with yourself, you sit with your thoughts. And the more you focus on it, you will understand that you can combat a lot of issues, both personally and socially. And we are all better for taking good care of ourselves. And if the pandemic is anything to go by, looking after yourself is really the key to a very good and healthy life. And hoping that the next time we meet, we come with numbers of less cyberbullying and cybercrimes. Thank you to everybody. Great team. Sujit, your team has been excellent. Thank you for coordinating flawlessly. We had zero issues leading up to it. Thank you, and looking forward to working with everybody collaboratively. Thank you.
Anudhi, thank you for those kind thoughts. Really appreciate that. Sam?
Thank you, Anudhi. So ladies, again, a big thank you, Eileen, Shanika, Dr. Nasser, Anudhi, for taking time and joining us and supporting us on this initiative to bring awareness and on this topic, very important topic, and giving your insights. So I think to close off, Sujit, I'll hand over to you to do the formal vote of thanks, if I may say.
Thank you, Sam. And I have a large, long list, right? And I hope this list will, have a concise list of people. And if I do miss anybody's name, it is not intentional, right? So I would like to start with the panelists first, right? All of you, right? Dr. Nazat, Shanika, Anudhi, Eileen. Thank you so much, right? I mean, we are connected right now from different geographies, different time zones. And Dr. Nazat, it's almost close to midnight. And Eileen and you should be in bed right now, but you have taken that time to be with us. And I really appreciate it. And I also want to thank AisP and the ladies in cyber to joining hands with us. Right? And we've been partnering with AisP for several other events, and we look forward to working with you and bring the best practices, knowledge, and share it in this part of the world. Right? So AisP, again, thank you. Vincent, thank you so much for following up very closely. Your team is awesome. Thank you so much. And I also want to thank the national partner, Information Communication and Technology Agency, right? I must say that you have always come forward to support us in every single initiative have done. And you have been partnering us for all the 3 cybersecurity events which were, led by the women in cybersecurity. Thank you so much. And we couldn't have asked for more, right? And your support is tremendous. And I want to mention a few names. Anudhi, definitely you for being here. But there are people behind the scene, right? Nevindri, right? I'm not sure whether you're on this call right now, but I just have to WhatsApp you and you are there for me, right? You've been there for me all throughout, right? Shanika and various other people. And special mention to Jayantha Fernando. Jayantha, you've been doing a great job, right? And I've seen you doing a lot in this space, working with multinationals, multiple countries, cross-border discussions, and you try to do everything possible to make Sri Lanka a better place in the cyberspace, right? And that's a lot of effort, and a lot of people may not see that, right? I mean, they may just see a piece of paper in form of a legislation, but what gets into that paper, it's a lot of sweat, a lot of hard work. Hats off to you and to your team. I also want to thank Shalindra and Sanjay Balasurya for getting all the help and getting Anudhi on the panel, right? So thank you so much. I also want to thank Sri Lanka CERT, a national partner, and they too have been with us for almost every single event we've done. And I want to thank Dr. Amarasena, the CEO of Sri Lanka CERT, and also Nilishi Bandara, right? You've been very instrumental, right? I mean, whenever I asked for help, without any hesitation, you've been there to support me, right? And especially all the initiatives we've done with women in cybersecurity. And I also want to thank you for guiding us in terms of identifying the right speakers. Thank you so much. And we look forward to your continued support. Strategic partners, I want to thank SLASCOM, Sandra De Souza, Chairperson, and also Chaminda De Silva. Thank you so much for coming on board and supporting us, because this is a community initiative. And thank you for standing with us and driving this initiative. I also want to thank Banking, Finance, and Insurance Institute of Nepal. So we've gone across the region, right? So we are in the SAARC region. We have a country which is supporting us, an organization which is instrumental in bringing various kinds of education. Dr. Binod Atharya, thank you so much for you and your team for promoting this event and being on board as a strategic partner. Thank you so much. And I also want to thank the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce, the Chamber Academy. And I want to mention Shihara, thank you so much for getting all the approvals internally and getting coming on board to support this initiative and sharing this the programs which you do and propagating it amongst the members of the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce. Thank you so much. Then I also want to thank the community partners, ISACA Sri Lanka chapter, Prashantan and team. Thank you so much for supporting us. In some ways we do compete, but wherever we see a common topic such as this, I think we have all come together shedding all our differences in terms of this thing. So all with the objective that we want to have a safe and secure cyber world in Sri Lanka. So thank you so much for that, Prashantan and team. I also want to thank Dhammika Marasinghe, IEEE Young Professionals Sri Lanka. Dhammika, you've always been a support, right? So your mandate to take this message across to all the young people in different universities, you've been very, very kind and instrumental in taking this message across. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for partnering with us. And we look forward to doing a lot more events with you in the future. Last but not the least, right? And I want to thank the media partners. I think, Shanika, you talked about collaborating with the media. I want to mention to you, when I was talking to Andrew Jabaraj, the director of README, I asked him, would you be able to cover this event? He said, don't worry, Sujit, I will have Diva attend the event. And he's taking notes. He's been, asking us questions about all the materials where he could actually go and look for. So thank you so much for being here, taking all the notes and planning to publish a great article so that we can create awareness amongst our communities. Then I must thank Sam, your team, right? We call your team the Superwomen. Samani, and Suhashini, right? Wonderful, great effort. Very quietly, you pull this through, the third successive event. Hats off to you. And we look forward to having many more events as such this, right? The panelists have said that they're ready to collaborate, ready to do more events. So that means I'm going to come back and demand more from you, right? So we will pull that through again. And finally, my board, right? Thank you, ISC2 Colombo chapter board. Some of you are here, Chami, Amal, I could see that you're attending this event. Thank you for being here, being supportive, and endorsing all what I have asked, right? So without your support, we wouldn't have been able to do this. So finally, thank you so much again. And I think I also need to thank Shanika, your superiors, the chairman of NCPA, Mr. Chanaka Amarasinghe, and Mrs. Anoma Sirivardhana, Director General, right? Thank you so much for letting Shanika be on this panel, right? And thank you also for sharing all those good work you all are doing. And we look forward to working with you all, right? So thank you, ladies. Thank you for being here. And I think I forgot to thank Sherin. Sherin, thank you for coming on board and doing the keynote and setting the stage for this discussion. I look forward to working with you all again. So with that note, I want to say good night and have a great evening. Take care and see you on another panel. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.